How we doing? How we doing? Happy Monday. It's the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast here on YouTube and Facebook Live. I am your host, Richie. Gotta say, guys, hard to not feel romantic about football after what we saw yesterday. Tundra-like conditions, both in Philadelphia and in Buffalo. It's kind of what the playoffs need to always look like and just always be about. And definitely an uptick in competition and in drama in both those games as the Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills advance to championship weekend. Bills are going to be taking on the defending champion Chiefs, a team that has been a thorn in their side over quite a few seasons. It is the big bad wolf that the Bills need to overcome to get to that first elusive Super Bowl appearance since the Jim Kelly era of the 90s. As the Philadelphia Eagles go, they won in and got Saquon Barkley as their big free agent acquisition, and he is not disappointed. It takes a team to win, no question about that. But make no mistake about it, Saquon Barkley is the Eagles MVP this year, and he will get some votes for league MVP, whether he wins it or not. Another debate, we'll see. But Saquon Barkley, yet again, sensational against the Rams. And we're going to start this up in Philadelphia. Daniel Nunez on time, bro. He is here. Yeah, happy Victory Monday to you, Nunez. I'm not going to rejoice with you. As you know, I am a Giants fan, but I am a fan of this game, and that was a phenomenal 2 games yesterday. They did not disappoint. Yeah, tonight I will rejoice if that happens. Eagles versus Bills. Yeah, Nunez, that was my prediction going into the playoffs. I did come off my Buffalo pick, and they proved me wrong. So I am to a level happy about that, because if it was up to me, I'd root for Buffalo. I don't have any love for those Ravens. I do respect Lamar, but they are the reason my team has that one Lombardi defeat, Super Bowl defeat. They crushed us back in 2000. That wasn't even a game. I have no issue with that. MVP all day long. LaDainian Tomlinson and Adrian Peterson's MVP seasons need to be re-examined if they want to overlook what Saquon did this year. And no knock on those two. Those two were great. But we're going to start this up with your team, Nunez. Philadelphia Eagles, just to kind of give you an idea what it looked like. The snow really came down even heavier in the second half. Integral play of the game, there were quite a few. But the kicking game was difficult. Extra points were not a given. Both teams at different junctures, weighed the options of going for 2 because of the weather. Saquon Barkley putting you guys up by 2 scores. And it almost looked like, if you were reading lips, he told quarterback Jalen Hurts, watch me, or watch this, something along those lines. He took it to the house. It's one thing if you know what's coming. It's another thing that when you know what's coming and you can't stop it. And Saquon Barkley has been that kind of guy this year for your Philadelphia Eagles. But I got to say, the biggest play of this particular game, after the Rams had shaved it down to 1 score and they were threatening to take the lead late, the false start penalty. Because the Eagles had no timeouts. The Eagles were completely gassed on defense, which means that they couldn't even make any substitutions. So that was a critical mistake. And I wanted to ask you this, Daniel. From the other coaching lens, Rams are down by a score. You need only a couple of yards to keep the chains moving. And they chose to keep passing. When you have a defense that's a little bit on their heels, and when you already have your personnel that's either going to win you the game or lose you the game, I thought the Rams made a poor choice, a very poor choice, to not run the ball with Kyren Williams just to guarantee that you get more downs and just spike it real quick. They were already on the field. It wasn't like a situation where you had a lot of personnel coming on and off the field. Ultimately, Carter lit up Stafford, And that essentially was your ball game because it went from a third and super manageable to a fourth and very unmanageable. I got to give the Rams credit, being displaced due to the fires going on in Los Angeles. So, I think they represented their city really well as a wild card. They didn't get that home game, obviously. They had to go to Arizona. They did defeat a 14-win Viking team. And I felt that punch for punch, they were right there with the team who, in my opinion, is the best team in the conference. Not basing this on record because, as we all know, the Lions squandered the 1 seed. But I've felt pretty much since November that the Philadelphia Eagles have the most balance in this conference, and they are going to host their division rivals, the Washington Commanders, in a rubber match. Game 1, Philly outlasted the Commanders. And in game 2 was a very back and forth affair out in D.C. Saquon Barkley had a monster first quarter. Ultimately, when Jalen Hurts left with the concussion, Kenny Pickett, I thought he played okay, but the Commanders were able to stay in the game and ultimately outlasted the Eagles. Now, granted, they didn't beat the Eagles starting quarterback, but the reason why I think that game was so important for the morale of the Commanders is that I view that as their first quality win against a legitimate opponent, because the Commanders, while having a phenomenal season, did get the benefit of inheriting a fourth place schedule. Them finishing fourth last year is the reason they got Jaden Daniels as opposed to the New York Giants, who ended up getting their contingency plan, his favorite receiver in LSU, Malik Neighbors. And, earlier in the year, I viewed the Commanders as an ascending team, but a team that could not beat the better teams. And they have more than shut me up and proved a lot of people wrong here in these playoffs. But, as a look ahead, and I'm not going to drop my prediction right now, I got to say that I think the Eagles have every advantage to win this game. The Commanders have not shown me that, or pretty much not too many people this year have shown me that they could slow down Saquon Barkley right now and the Eagles' rushing attack. That's for one. The Eagles have a phenomenal defense, a much better defense than the team that the Commanders just defeated in the Detroit Lions. Now, if Detroit is healthy, then you could revisit that conversation. But with all the people that the Lions were missing, the Commanders took full advantage, and you got to give credit to the coaching staff on that. You got to give credit to the young rookie quarterback playing big in a big moment. But the Eagles are not going to give up those big chunk plays the way that the Lions did. The way you beat the Eagles is you have to outlast them. You have to be able to keep their offense off the field for different junctures. And you got to get the occasional 3 and outs to beat an offense and a team that is that deep. I'm just going to say this. I would be surprised if the Commanders are able to go into Philly and get that win, with the exception of a disappointing loss super early in the year where Saquon Barkley had a super catchable ball. All he had to do was walk in the end zone. He lost concentration for a moment. The Falcons did defeat the Eagles. But outside of that, it has been damn near impossible for anybody to go in the Link this year and get a W. So looking ahead, I expect the Eagles to punch their ticket to the Super Bowl, which would be a 5th appearance there. A 5th appearance for the Philadelphia Eagles. They lost with Ron Jaworski back in the day. They lost with Donovan McNabb back in the day. They defeated Tom Brady and co. with Nick Foles, and most recently lost with Jalen Hurts on a very controversial call on James Bradbury against the Kansas City Chiefs. So there is that potential for a Chief Eagle comeback. They might be getting the Bills. And a little caveat here with that. In the event that the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles face each other, it's going to be wild because from a shit-talking aspect, the Bills would potentially have lost to the entire division in the Super Bowl. They've only played the NFC East in every Super Bowl they've ever been to. Then on the flip side, should the Eagles lose to the Bills, they would have to hear from the other teams that love to trash talk about how they're the only NFC East team that couldn't beat the Bills in the big game. Now, granted, these are 2 different Bills teams. The Jim Kelly, Marv Levy era took L's twice to Dallas, once to Washington, which was the last time Washington got that far, and to my New York Giants. 4 consecutive years, starting with the Giants, ending with the 2 Cowboy games, Washington right there at number 2. So a lot of storylines, not a lot of nostalgia, because it's been a long time. It's been such a long time. I mean, I think I was like 10 years old last time the Commanders were this good. And, when I was much younger, the Eagles didn't really become the organization they are in terms of consistency, pretty much in the Howie Roseman era. I mean, you guys had some seasons of greatness. You guys had some promise. You had the Andy Reid part there where you made 4 consecutive conference title games, but, only winning one of them. And, I think if T.O. stuck around longer, maybe you guys had more to celebrate. But the Eagles right now are a great organization. They're well run, and they definitely have a great shot to win their second Super Bowl trophy. We're going to move it along to this classic here. Buffalo Bills outlasting the Baltimore Ravens in the battle of probably the 2 MVP candidates playing the quarterback position. I think this was a big prove-it game for both guys because, unfortunately, both of these guys have been on the wrong side of the divisional round very frequently. The Ravens have to walk away from here feeling some form of disappointment because they were 1 game away from the Super Bowl last year and they were favored to beat the Chiefs. Mistakes last year by Lamar Jackson and then rookie Zay Flowers really hurt the Ravens. And, schematically, it's hard to outcoach Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. You give them an inch, they take a mile. As the Bills go, I think they did a really good job in terms of not being afraid to run the ball against the number 1 rush defense in the NFL. That's what the Ravens have been this year. All in all, a really good year for the Ravens. They should not hang their heads. They should be ready for next year. They still have that window to win a championship. But this was a prove-it game for sure for both quarterbacks. Early turnovers by Lamar Jackson, definitely crucial. But I think whether it's fair or not, the guy that's going to get the most blame here is tight end Mark Andrews. A phenomenal play at midfield, punching the ball out. Andrews got forced back in where he almost had to reassess where he was on the field. And something that's being taught to defensive players now more than ever is punching out a ball. It's one thing on special teams. It's one thing when a guy's getting held up. But just in free space, you cannot emphasize how big of a play that was for the Buffalo defense. And then, later in the game, I thought Lamar Jackson really showed some guts. I believe it was an 88-yard drive, if I'm not mistaken, taking them all the way down the field. And Mark Andrews drops the 2-point conversion. It took a Buffalo first down to put it on ice. Ty Johnson got that done. And Josh Allen, his 2 rushing touchdowns, he didn't have the sexiest stat line, but he made enough plays to win the game. And, Coach McDermott, his legacy is going to be based on can he win the big game? Same thing with Allen. And they get that chance. A year ago, Tyler Bass, the heartbreaking missed field goal. And, Buffalo has been a team similar to the Vikings that has had some of the most heartbreaking postseason moments ever. Whether it's the Music City Miracle, whether it was Super Bowl 25 with Norwood against my Giants. I mean, shoot, they had a Super Bowl where Thurman Thomas in the beginning of the game couldn't find his helmet. There's been a lot of conspiracy theories about what the hell happened there. The overtime game against Kansas City with the questionable kickoff situation. That ultimately spawned the new overtime rules. But unless if you are a Kansas City fan, I think it's safe to say that most of America is rooting for the Buffalo Bills. And it's going to be a phenomenal game. I think the Bills and the team they just beat, the Ravens, had everything they need to dethrone the Chiefs. I have said on my show super recently that whoever won yesterday would represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. My way too early prediction going in was the Eagles against the Bills. Get at me in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. I know Nunez has probably said a few things here, so I'm going to check this out. Sorry for the delay, Daniel. I'm freezing my ass off out here. This isn't New York cold, but when you're acclimated, this Florida cold is real. I'm out on my deck just kind of chilling out. getting my caffeine on. The Eagles can't take this Commanders team lightly. I couldn't agree more, bro. The Commanders have shown if you let them hang around, they're going to make you pay. But I'm going to be honest. I think the team that the Eagles just beat is better than the Commanders. My very humble opinion. Jalen Hurts is 1-0 against the Bills. Yes, he is, Daniel. I remember that game. And correct me if I'm wrong. That was an overtime win where you guys had like that marathon drive where every time Buffalo needed to get off the field, they just couldn't do it. If I'm not mistaken, Daniel, that was 2 years ago. But yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun covering these two games. And we're definitely going to give a detailed. We're definitely going to. You're a clown. My girls will be playing with me. We're definitely going to give a detailed preview of these two games coming up, how these teams got here. You know, this has been a season that the NFL should rejoice and embrace. It's been a lot of fun this year. So much going on this particular year. In other news, wanted to mention this. Anthony Santander is a Toronto Blue Jay, which I do believe potentially signals the end for the Vladimir Guerrero era. Vlad has been linked to the New York Mets, who have yet to sign Pete Alonso. So it looks like Pete Alonso might be finding a new address this year. He is currently a free agent. We're going to see what happens with Vlad. But outside of the LA Dodgers, you know, the New York Mets have really been going out of their way to make sure that they are putting their fans in the belief that they are willing to do anything to win that elusive championship since the 86 season. And speaking of 86, this is pretty crazy. I said this yesterday on the show. The NFC East has two teams fighting to get to the Super Bowl. The Commanders, formerly the Redskins, and the Eagles. Last time this happened was the then Redskins against the New York Football Giants in the Meadowlands, the old Giant Stadium. It's been a long time coming. A long time coming since the NFC East has had two teams in a game this big. And, you know, regardless of team affiliation, it's hard not to be proud of your division if you root for somebody in the NFC East. You know, a couple of years ago, we sent 3 to the playoffs. But this is ultra impressive because I don't think too many people had 2 NFC East teams making it here when everybody was praising how good the North was. You know, so definitely going to be interesting. We're going to see how it shakes out. I look forward to bringing that show to you guys and announcements to come on that. Going to sign off for now. Going to get warm. And I don't know, man. Don't have a lot to do. The house is so clean. Did all my errands. I think I might just like post up on the couch and play some Madden. It's one of the few places where I can make things right after this ridiculous season that my New York Giants had. Until next time, I am Richie. Have a great day.